This past week, we did see the US dollar fall quite a bit, but we have started to base out here at this area of demand on the 4-hour time frame. Now, is this the bottom of the US dollar drop, or will we continue to see the dollar fall? Let's talk about it in this week's forecast. But first, here are some of the profitable trades that we had from last week's daily market breakdown videos. So looking at the daily time frame of the DXY here, we talked about this last week, how we broke below this upward trend line that was very nice, but we did get a nice push up. We failed to make a new high there, which would have given us a new upward trend line in the daily chart, which would have definitely signaled enough strength to me to suggest we will be pulling up to this weekly supply. That weekly supply is located at 110.66. I think that is where we are most likely headed based off of the momentum that I am seeing. Yes, we did break the daily trend to the upside, but going back to the 4-hour chart, which I showed you guys in the intro, we have this 4-hour demand zone being respected. So that is a very positive sign at 107. So gonna squeak over here to the 1-hour chart really quick. So on the 1-hour time frame, we have a 1-hour supply that is in control right now. It's a very little hidden drop-based drop supply zone. Actually, I would say almost probably all supply and demand traders aren't going to have a zone like this like I do on their charts like me. So with this supply and control, we could expect to see some downward pressure. However, yes, we have a 1-hour supply and control, but down here we have a 4-hour demand that's in control. 4-hour demand technically overpowers a 1-hour supply zone. That is why I'm expecting this to break. Now, I don't think it's unlikely we will maybe continue to see price push lower and get maybe a 2-to-1 trade off that zone. Now, we did push up, and if we do push up, break the supply, that's going to be a bullish sign to me. And then we are most likely headed to this 4-hour supply at 108.64, a nice little rally base drop area of supply, where I think we'll most likely hesitate again, just like we're doing on the 1-hour time frame right now. So at the end of the day, it's a little bit tricky right now because we are in the middle of supply and demand on the 4-hour time frame. But since the demand's in control, we are expecting the dollar to continue to go up. And if that happens, well, then most likely on the daily chart, we will have a new upward trend on the daily time frame, and we'll be pushing up to the weekly supply. That is my guess. So this week, I'm going to be watching this 1-hour supply zone and the 4-hour supply zone as well on the DXY. On to the forecast for the EURUSD. You can see on the weekly time frame, we did get a nice push down, and we are clearly headed to this weekly demand at 0.99. You can see that is my long-term target. So we could expect the euro to continue to fall. On the daily time frame, we basically caught this beautiful daily supply zone trade here. If you go back, watch the forecast back in December, I've been pointing out the supply for quite a while. So it's very nice to see a nice move off that. We didn't break the low there, so it's not super bearish yet. But honestly, with a daily supply and control, in my opinion, it is probably shorts all the way on the euro US dollar. Now on the 4-hour time frame, we had a 4-hour supply zone here, broke that one, but we still have one above, and it's depending on how you drew it, it's tested, but according to how I drew it, it's not tested at 1.046. It is really tricky. The best bet in a situation like this at a tested zone is to look for confirmation, because look at even here. We had this demand zone from I don't even know how far back it goes. Yeah, see how far back it goes? And it was tested multiple times, and I actually messed up the way the zone looked. That is supposed to be it right there. And it was tested multiple times, and we came back in for a second test and then rallied out of it. So when the zone is tested, we want to look for confirmation. So what you could be doing is waiting for this 4-hour supply to be hit at 1.046, and then since we're on a 4-hour time frame, you would go to a 15-minute chart or a 5-minute chart if you want, and then you could look for confirmation on those day trading timeframes. Now, that is something we will be doing in the daily market breakdown videos, which are the forecasts that I release throughout the week. If you want to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership for exclusive access to our daily market breakdown videos and catch trades like these. Plus, dive deep with our full-length forecasts covering 26 plus markets, our interactive Sunday Zoom sessions, and personal homework to sharpen your strategy. And you'll also join our private Discord group for direct access to me and unlock a complete library of A to Z video lessons to master supply and demand trading. Don't miss out. Let's level up your trading. Links in the description down below. So I would wait for that 4-hour supply zone for shorts, and if it gets removed, then we could consider, maybe getting in long on the euro. But honestly, guys, in my opinion, we're most likely headed lower, and I just noticed right now at the recording of this video, we have a nice 1 hour downward trend on the euro US dollar right now on the 1 hour time frame. So what that means now is if you're day trading, if you like to day trade a 5-minute time frame or a 1-minute time frame, what you could be doing is day trading short as long as this downward trend line is being respected, guys. So in my opinion, it is shorts all the way. Whether you want to wait for the 4-hour supply to be hit, whether you want to be day trading short that downward trend line, it's up to you. Profit margin is clearly down to the weekly demand zone like we talked about earlier. On to the forecast for gold. I'm not going to zoom into the weekly or to the daily time frame because there's not really a lot of new zones, but look at the upward trends. We clearly have tons of momentum to the upside on gold. Things are looking really, really good. I personally do not want to be shorting that upward trend line. That is just me. The strong upward trends in the higher time frames, I'm not going to be shorting at. Call me crazy, but I'm not going to be doing it. So what you could be doing right now in gold is as long as this 4-hour trend line is being respected, day trading longs are completely fine. I'm showing you guys the trend line from down here to here. That is the correct way to draw trend lines. That's something else we talked about in the group, but that is a trend line. If we do get, let's say we pull back, break the trend line, let's say you take a loss, no big deal. We have two 4-hour demand zones down below at 27.85 and 27.68. So if we break this trend line here, from below the trend line to the demand zone, we have to be holding off on longs in that space. Wait for the demand zone to be hit, and then we could look for longs. If not, there is one lower as well. So that is what I would be doing on the 4-hour time frame. Now, if you want to get a little bit more aggressive, we also have a nice 1-hour upper trend line that I just drew today. Properly drawn trend line, clearly, being respected at this time. So if you're bullish, you could be looking for 5-minute time frame longs as long as this 1-hour trend line's holding. And same thing on the 4-hour chart. If we break this 1-hour trend line, we hold off on longs in that space. We wait for this 1-hour demand zone to be contacted, and then we could look for longs at 28.21. That is the nearest 1-hour zone that I'm seeing. It is a little bit aggressive, but it is a decent zone. But at the end of the day, guys, however you like to trade, I'm not one to say supply and demand is the only way to trade, although I am pretty biased, but I mean, I always post trades with proof of me calling out ahead of time. It's a very, very powerful strategy, but however you like to trade, whether it's supply and demand, support and resistance, whatever, chart patterns, it is longs all the way on gold. Look at my 4-chart layout. Trends to the upside on the weekly, the daily, the 4-hour, and the 1-hour time frame. So there's absolutely no reason to be shorting it. And even if we do start to break some trend lines, like I said, guys, we have demand down below as well, even on the daily chart and the weekly chart. So it is longs all the way. I just wouldn't be shorting it in my opinion. So however you like to trade, guys, it is longs on XAUUSD. On to the forecast for the USDJPY on the weekly time frame. Something significant has happened. I talked about this the last month almost, where I said it looks like we could be pulling back into this weekly demand at 151.23. Well, we are here now. We haven't really seen them move up from this demand zone yet, but it is important. Higher time frame weekly demand is in control, guys. So shorts are going to be lower odds. I cannot stress that enough. If you guys are appreciating and enjoying this video, I do appreciate a like and subscribe. If you are new to the channel, much appreciated. So with this weekly demand in control, in theory, we should be looking for longs on a lower time frame, preferably on a 4-hour chart, to basically get in long here and try to ride price up to the all-time high on the USDJPY. On the daily time frame, we did break this upward trend line here. Now, on the daily chart, there is that daily demand all the way down at 143.95. This is well below the weekly demand I just pointed out. So I just want to say it is possible we do pull all the way down to this daily demand that was kind of responsible for the bigger move up. So it is possible we get down there, but we're not going to talk about that just yet too much. What I would be doing here on the USDJPY, it's very, very simple. If, let's say you're bearish, you think, wow, Kevin's so wrong, that weekly demand sucks. I don't think it's going to hold. I think we're going down to that daily demand, or I think the USDN's not making all-time highs. That's fine. If you disagree with me, that's fine. If you want to short, the only way I'd be shorting is if this downward trend line is being respected. I wouldn't be shorting at this supply because it's tested multiple times, so that is out of the question. So I would only be shorting on day trading timeframes only, which is a 15-minute or lower, 15-minute, 5-minute, 1-minute typically. You could be day trading short those timeframes as long as this downward trend line is holding. Me personally, since the weekly demand is now in control down here, what I want to see is a nice push up, maybe a break of this downward trend line with a new 4-hour demand zone there. I'll be looking for longs at that demand zone right there, because that is basically a 4-hour confirmation as we come off of the weekly higher time frame demand. That's what I'll be waiting for. Basically a change of character, change of direction, confirmation, whatever you like to see. I would also prefer to see this supply removed as well. Or let's say we push up here. Let's say there's a couple options. I'll walk you guys through all of them for longs. Let's say, like I said, we break the trend line. We have a new demand zone. Boom. There's our setup right there. A demand zone that broke the trend line. It's also possible we push up. We break the downward trend line. Maybe there's no demand here at all. That's fine. Maybe we wait for this supply to be hit, and then there's a demand zone here. We can look for long off of that. That's another form of confirmation if we don't get a trend line removal zone. Another option, let's say we push up, break the demand zone, or sorry, we break the downward trend line here, respect the supply, we get in long at this demand, push up, maybe we break this supply here, then we get a new 4-hour demand. We could look for longs at this 4-hour demand zone as well, take our stop loss from down here and bump it up under that zone as well. That is just a couple options. I usually don't do this on the weekly Forex forecast, so let me know if you guys like little tips like that and I can continue to do them. Let me know in the comments down below. But at the end of the day, guys, the higher time frame weekly demands and control, we do prefer to look for longs in this situation. We just have to be a little bit patient here on the USDJPY. On to the forecast for the GBPUSD. So on the weekly time frame here, just looking kind of at our higher time frames just to see quick. We're floating almost in the middle between supply and demand, so it's a little bit tricky where price is going to go. There is profit margin to the upside and to the downside, so that is very, very significant and important to remember. On the daily chart, we did break this downward trend line, and that downward trend line was broken by this demand at 1.235, and it is currently being respected. I wouldn't say it's greatly respected, but I would say it is respected. But just because a demand zone is in control doesn't mean we can't look for shorts, and we did pretty much just that at this 4-hour area of supply. You can see in the Discord, one of the members caught a trade from this 4-hour supply zone that I pointed out in the daily market breakdown video as well. So it's nice to see some of the Discord members getting some nice trades and actually listening and paying attention to the forecast. So that's great. Nice move off of that 4-hour supply. So with that 4-hour supply in control, if you think we are going to go lower, what that means now is that 15-minute time frame shorts are going to be good as long as this 4-hour supply is being respected. I don't really want this trend line here is almost irrelevant. I'm actually going to remove it. It's not super significant to me, and I'd pretty much more feel comfortable calling this like this overall trend here is sideways to me. So that's why you could, justify getting in short here. It's a little bit tricky. This demand didn't work out great. That supply didn't work out great. This demand was held up pretty good. So you can see it's difficult to tell what's going on. Who knows? We might push up, break the supply, not even get a 3-to-1 move off this, create a new demand, and then we could look for longs there. But at the end of the day, we do have that 4-hour supply in control. We could be looking for shorts as long as that supply is in control, like I said, on a 15-minute chart. Now, let's say we get a push up, we break the supply, break the high, get a nice move up, and we have a 4-hour demand zone. Should we get in long at that 4-hour demand zone? I think it's good because here's why. Like I said earlier, that daily demand is in control. How is price going to push up higher on a higher time frame? Well, first we need to have a daily downward trend line removed, and then we have to have a daily demand zone pretty much created and respected to get that push up. So that is why I think if we do, like I said, on the 4-hour time frame, get that push up with new demand zones formed, I think it'd be good for potential longs here on the GBPUSD. All right, on to the forecast for the USDCAD. This is where I am from and where I currently live. Let me know where you guys are from and where you guys are currently living in the comments down below. Maybe some of you guys can connect. So on the weekly time frame, I've been talking about it pretty much since right here. I've been saying, look, guys, we are due for a pullback on the USDCAD. Very, very overdue. And remember, just because I say something is due and we're overdue for it, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. This thing could have just continued to tear to the upside. But we did get a massive drop in the USDCAD this past week. And with that being said, it's a little bit tricky. So on the daily chart here, we are back into daily demand. If you look, this daily demand, you can go back and watch in December. I called out this daily demand. 1, 2, coming in for that third test. So do I think this demand zone is going to hold? Not really, but what's intriguing me here is if we kind of zoom in. So this is the demand zone, right? This is the proximal line, the distal line. We barely tested this demand zone, right? It's not like we pushed in, closed down here, and then pushed up. We've barely even tested. We actually haven't had a candle close in it. So I think it is possible it does hold. It's not an area I feel comfortable trading at, but it could hold. How are you going to trade the USDCAD right now? What would I, personally be doing? Well, on the 1 hour chart, we do have a supply zone up here at 144. So we could see a move off that supply. Could be an area you look for shorts. If we remove it, any demand zone, we could look for longs off of that. So it's all going to revolve around that 1 hour supply at this time. It's a little bit far from price, but it is what it is. There is also a 4 hour supply up here that kind of initiated this massive move down that we've seen. Just terrible price action though. I mean, this is not what you want to see, but at least we have a clean supply zone above at 1.46. We could see a move off that as well. So at the end of the day, the USDCAD, it is definitely a little bit tricky. In theory, we have weekly and daily trends to the upside, so longs are going to be preferred, but all I'm really seeing right now are supply zones. But like I said, if we start to remove the supply zones and we have new demand zones, since we have a weekly and daily trend, we need to hop on those demand zones, in my opinion, here on the USDCAD. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the AUDUSD. You guys know we recently broke this significant low, so really we could be in free fall mode. However, on the daily chart here, it looks like we want to break this downward trend line. We technically have not broken it yet. However, that looks very, very strong to me, at least weak for the downward trend line. So to me, it looks like we could be removing that downward daily trend line. So there's not much to go off here on the daily chart. We're going to stick to the lower time frames, which is why we caught this beautiful rally base rally 1 hour demand zone trade at 0.618. This was a trade called out in the daily market breakdown video. So beautiful setup from that trade, 5-to-1 hit easily. What you could be doing now is if we break this 1 hour supply, it's proven supply. We've almost reacted off of it twice, definitely here. If we remove that supply and we are left with a 1 hour demand, we could definitely look for longs off of that demand zone. That is one thing I will be doing here on the Aussie US dollar, and I don't know why I did not draw the zone there. There's a zone here as well, but it's tested, so not really worth trading right now, and I probably wouldn't have taken that trade anyways. But anyways, we're kind of ranging between supply and demand. We really want to break out of that supply, and then we can look for longs. But look, even if we break this demand zone here, we have a 1 hour supply, we could definitely be looking for shorts off that, and that's a trade I'll have, or that's a zone I'll have on my charts for the members, just like I had for that one down below. So on the 4 hour time frame, we have a demand zone in control right now. Nice, beautiful initial reaction off of it. It looked like it was going to continue to go up. We pull back in for a second test. So this is looking a little bit weaker. This zone down here is really funky looking. I absolutely hate it, but I don't know how else to draw it, so that's how it's going to be. If you are going to get in long down at this zone, it's got to be 15-minute confirmation. It's too big of a zone, and the confirmation on a 50-minute time frame would make me feel a little bit safer. So that's really all I am seeing here on the AUDUSD. Definitely monitor that downward trend line in the daily chart. If we start to really rally, then I think hopping on long is going to be a good idea, especially if we start to create new 1 hour zones like I was saying. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the USDCHF. I've been talking about this for a bit. I am waiting to break that high in the weekly chart to really signal strength and give us an upward trend on the USD Swiss. I think it's going to happen, and here is why. On the daily chart, you can see we have a very nice daily upward trend line. Trend line's clearly being respected. The touch points of the trend line aren't even those 2 points I just pointed out. The touch lines are from here to here. Those are the 2 contact points. We touched them again and 2 more times, so it is really being respected. If we do continue to respect it, we break that daily supply, any daily demand zone there, we could certainly look for longs off of that zone. If we do get a pullback down to this daily zone at 0.886, I think it's another great area to look for longs at as well. So that would be my plan. Regarding the daily chart, I do think we are going to continue to go up. However, on the 1 hour time frame, we do have a significant area of supply at 0.911. This supply zone was responsible for taking out let me just change that. They were taking out, or sorry, this supply zone took out a very nice upward trend line on the 1 hour time frame. So I think, like I said, I think we're going to be going up on the, as far as the daily time frame goes. I just don't think that's going to happen without hesitation. So I think we will hesitate around this 1 hour supply. If you're bearish, that would be the only place I would look for a short trade at. And like I tell everyone on YouTube and the members and everything, if you are going to trade counter trend, so this 1 hour supply zone is a counter trend setup to the daily time frame. Remember, this is what the daily time frame looks like. We have a nice trend. So this supply zone is counter trend. So if you are going to look for a short off of here, it's best to be as aggressive as possible with profit taking, bumping your stop loss to break even as soon as kind of you can, maybe after a 1-to-1 move. And then, don't get greedy in a counter trend market. look for 2 to 1s, 3 to 1s max, right? It's not the time to look for 5 to 1s. So that's the supply zone I'd be looking to short at. And also, if we remove it, any 1 hour demand zone will be a very significant zone, and I will personally be involved in that zone if we do get a break of that supply. Why that zone? Because again, it's a significant supply, so any demand zone that removes it is going to be significant as well. So as far as the Swiss goes right now, it is all revolving around that 1 hour supply. On to the forecast for the crude oil time chart here. You can see we are into a weekly demand zone. Not a great demand zone. I mean, it's not bad as far as it did remove a trend line. It's a decent basing. We are into it. So yes, we could be looking for longs. And what are we going to be doing here for longs? It's really simple and one thing only. But first, we did catch this beautiful 4 hour rally-based drop supply zone at 75.25 from the daily market breakdown video like you can see on the screen right now. Beautiful setup from that 4 hour supply zone. Target fully hit. Beautiful setup. Anyways, since like the shorts already happened, right? At the time of this supply zone short, the weekly demand was not in control. We had profit margin to the weekly demand. Now we are at the weekly demand. So we want to be holding off on shorts, in my opinion. It doesn't mean you can't, but if you are going to short, I wouldn't be shorting at that supply. It's tested. What you could be doing is day trading short as long as that 4 hour downward trend line is holding. So that's really it. Now, me personally, since we have a weekly demand zone in control, I don't want to get in long just at the overall weekly zone. It's kind of a big zone. It's way too big for me to get involved in a zone like that. So what I'm going to be waiting for is a break of that supply zone, the downward trend line, and be looking for longs off of that demand zone on crude oil. That's what I'm going to be looking for. Basically a 4 hour confirmation. And remember, guys, this is a 4 hour chart. We're going to be looking for confirmation on the 4 hour time frame because the weekly demand's in control down here. This is the exact same thing you do for day trading, right? So let's pretend this 4 hour chart is a 1 hour chart, or let's just say a 15-minute chart right here. You could be waiting for a break of the downward trend line and then like a 50-minute demand zone in control down here, then we could be waiting for a new 1 minute demand zone to become in control right there. So it doesn't matter what time frame you're trading. This is the confirmation model we are going to be looking for. Supply zones being removed and downward trend lines being removed for confirmation that the weekly demand is going to hold. So that's what I'm going to be waiting for on oil. And if we don't get the confirmation and we blast through the weekly demand, that's fine. I won't be involved in the trade. If you want to watch the full-length forecast and get my daily chart analysis and daily market breakdown videos, join the Diamond membership. Links in the description down below.